Hey. So I'm gonna start a new adventure here. Um, God's kind of been pushing me for this. He's been prompting me to do this for a while. And we all do that thing where we struggle and we say, okay, I hear you, but I don't know if I can do this. I don't know how to do this. I don't know, why me? What, why? But, it's been more pressing lately, and, I've been doing a whole lot more listening and really listening. So my adventure is to just post some videos, and each video is gonna have a topic of different sorts. And that's been part of my struggle, is I just have a list of things just swirling around in my head, and I'm like, okay, I can talk about that. I can talk about that. I can talk about that. But for today, the thing that's really been weighing on me is grief. Especially, in the world today, we are bombarded on a daily basis almost of somebody close to us, a friend of ours that has somebody very close to them, celebrities. We like to think, they're in a world of their own, but there are times when a celebrity passes that it does leave a mark. Even, just a small mark, but it's a mark. So, and I think that's part of what, for grief, everybody automatically goes to the loss of a life, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a friend. But grief touches so much more than that. When somebody goes through a divorce, they grieve. They grieve the loss of the life that they knew together as a couple. They grieve friends, because inevitably friends generally take one side or the other. Family, and that's a grieving process. It's a loss of the life that you knew. When something is taken from you, the innocence of a child, that's a grieving process that the child goes through, the parent goes through, the caretakers, they all go through a process of grieving, because it is a loss of innocence. It is a loss of a part of life that you knew, and now you have to navigate and figure out what's next, what's the new of your life now. And for me, and one of the things we practice in my family when there's a loss of something, you have to allow yourself, and you have to allow others around you that are grieving as well. You have to allow the feelings that come. And what I mean by that is, you have to allow yourself to be angry. You have to allow yourself to be okay one day. You have to allow yourself to be sad about the loss. There's a whole spectrum of emotions. And when you grieve something, you're gonna go through every emotion on that spectrum. And you have to allow yourself to do that. Before, about five years ago, my family experienced the loss of someone, and it literally turned our family upside down. Our entire family stopped for a minute. It was the loss of a dad, the loss of a stepdad, the loss of, even though him and I were separated, he was still my husband. And that was a struggle all in itself for me. It was the loss of a son-in-law, the loss of a son for his mom. And through that, I very quickly adopted a saying, a motto, as it is, for my family, that we literally were gonna take one day, one moment, and one breath at a time to get through it. And that's what we did. We took it day by day. We, situation by situation, decision by decision, that came up. And that's all you can do. And there are days where literally breathing is the best you can do that day, and that's okay. And that's why when I say one breath at a time, that's what I mean by that, because sometimes one breath at a time is all you have for that day, and that's okay. You have to be okay with that. I mean, you have to be okay that today, for me, I describe it as spinning a wheel of emotion, like on the Wheel of Fortune, and they spin the big wheel. I mean, it's a constant spinning wheel, and sometimes it's gonna land on, I'm okay today. Like, I'm okay. We're gonna get through the day and I'm okay. Sometimes it lands on, I'm really sad that they're not here. I'm sad that they don't get to share in an experience. And there's days still 5 years later, it lands on angry. I'm angry at the choices that were made, the choice that was made. I mean, and sometimes we're told, oh, don't be mad. Being mad, there's no point in being mad. You have to forgive. You have to move on. You have to forget. But what's really, really important is that my grief journey is not the same as your grief journey. It's not the same as my children's grief journey. There were 3 children in my house that were turned upside down. They all 3 dealt with it different. And they were all 3 different than the way I dealt with it. I mean, when you're going through a situation like that, it's just important to let yourself feel how you need to feel in that moment. And if you land on angry, that's okay. Be angry at the situation. Be angry at, the person. Be angry if we're talking about grieving the loss of life as you knew it because of an accident, or because of, like I mentioned earlier, the loss of, the innocence of a child. You can be angry at the people involved. Be angry. Be mad. Because a lot of times when you're angry and when you're mad, you're able to release, you release the tension, you release ideas that are just swirling in your head. You're able to say those things that you need to say. But with that, it's important to not stay in that angry place. So many times people will get to a spot in the grieving process and then they stay in that spot. But it's important to keep moving. And that may take you a day or two, it may take you a week or two, it may take you a month, it may take you years. But you've got to take the steps to progress through that, and not stay in that angry place or in that sad place. Moving on, there's no time frame for that, and I think a lot of people fall into a rut of comparing their grief to others. Like, she lost her husband last year and she's totally fine now, but I'm still struggling. Or she lost her child 14 years ago, 15 years ago. She should be over it by now. You can't put a time frame on losses, whether it's the loss of life, whether it's the loss of a dream, the loss of a passion that you had, the loss of life as you knew it. You can't compare that to somebody else. And I think as a society, we've got to recognize that, and we've got to stop saying those things. We've got to stop expecting people to, okay, it's been a week since you've buried your loved one. Let's get on with life. We've got to stop putting grief in a bubble, and trying to make everybody fit into the bubble that we think it is. We just have to let people go through their emotions. And if it takes them 20 years to not cry every day over the loss of a child, then that's what it takes. There may not be a day ever that they aren't deeply saddened by that loss or that change in life. I just, that's just, as far as grief goes, those are some of the major things that have been on my mind, because you just hear things all the time about, oh, you know, she gave up on her dream years ago, but she still is sad about it. Well, okay, that was a dream that she had. She is still working through letting go of that, so let her work through it. And instead of telling them you should be through this, you should get through this, you should be okay by now, how about we change the way we talk about it and the way we think about it, and say, how can I help you make steps to get through this? How can I make this better for you today? And tomorrow's another day. Like, words, the words we say to people go a long way in their grieving journey. We just have to be mindful of what we say and how we say it and who we're saying it to. I mean, if you're talking to your friends and you're saying, hey, Becky Lou, I think Jim Bob should be, you know, over the loss of his wife. It's been a year, it's been 2 years, it's been 3 years. He should be over it by now. He should be dating. He should be, you know, finding somebody new. Why don't you go to Jim Bob and say, hey Jim Bob, how are you today? And how can we get through today and be in a good place? And then that brings me to my last point with grieving, especially. This was one of the other hardest parts for me to navigate when we lost Tommy, was people ask you, how are you? And you have to decide, are they asking because they really want to know how you are? Do they want the whole story of how you are? Or do they want you to say, I'm okay, and just move on? That's difficult to navigate when you're trying to put your own emotions in check, and just get through a daily task. So when you ask somebody, how are they? You need to be ready for how they answer that. They may say, I'm okay, and move on. Or they may look at you and you can tell by their eyes they're not okay, and they're on the brink of breaking the dam and letting the tears flow. So be ready when you ask that question for the answer. Um, like I said, I say all that because God's been pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. So that was today's topic of grief, because it's a major thing in our world right now with everything that's going on, the pandemic, the violent protests, everything. Our entire society is changed, and that's a loss in itself. People are struggling to figure out this, literally the new world that we live in. So just let people have their time to navigate through that stuff. Give yourself permission to navigate through every feeling you're gonna feel. And just know that there really are days where breathing is the best you can do. Taking in the next breath is the best you can do. And give yourself permission that that's okay. It's okay. It's okay that yesterday you were angry, but today you're fine. Today, be okay. It's all right. We just all have to give ourselves permission to feel however it is we need to feel in the moment. So I'm gonna leave you with that. I mean, if anybody wants to, reach out, message me, we can talk about it. So I hope that some part of this helps somebody today just get through today, because that's at the end of the day, that's all we can do. We can get through today, and tomorrow is a whole new day. Tomorrow is a whole new situation, a whole new emotion. So like I said, I hope somebody can take something from this and get through today. And we will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow is another day.